If you want to know what kind of a day a man had, just catch him in his kitchen at after 11 o'clock at night, eating vanilla ice cream with ginger snap cookies in it. Now, you might ask the question, Will, is this healthy? And as a pollster, I would answer you by saying, it really depends on who you ask. Oh, and by the way, my name is Will. This is the Back 40, and yeah, we're going to talk about it. So back to that original question. Will, is this healthy? I'd say if you ask a room full of 57-year-old fat white guys who have had a stressful day, if eating ice cream with crumbled ginger snaps in it is a healthy decision, you'd probably get the answer that you would expect. The majority of them would say yes, this is very healthy. It also beats the alternative. However, if you ask that same question of a room full of nutritionists at, let's say, KU Hospital, been there, done that, they might answer that, no, Will, that's probably the most unhealthy thing you could ever do. And now we get down to the rat killing. And that is the new poll that came out today from CBS News and YouGov that shows that over 75% of the people that watched the president give his speech to a joint session of Congress last night thought he either did an excellent or a very excellent job. And again, I ask the question, is that correct? And again, I give the same answer. It depends on who you ask. Now, if we didn't live in a day and age, put that right over there. If we didn't live in a day and age where many in the mainstream media are parroting the words of this administration in order to curry favor, to get the access that they need to report on this administration, we wouldn't have to worry about the internal workings of a poll and wonder whether or not it accurately reflects what's happening in American society. But alas, unfortunately, that's not the day and age that we live in. So, in order to answer the question, Will, is the poll correct? We've got to dig a little bit deeper. And that's what we're going to do right now, my friends. Now, if you looked at all of the news articles that came out today regarding the speech, you would think it was a huge hit among the American public. Article after article after article, pointing out that Donald Trump's congressional speech was a huge hit with Americans. So now let's dig a little deeper into the guts of this poll and take a look at who this poll actually surveyed. What you're going to find is that the survey audience of this poll is much different from polls in the past. Take a look here. Over half of the respondents in this poll that said that they thought Donald Trump did such a great job in his speech to Congress last night were Republicans. Fewer than 3 were independents, and there were only 2 out of every 10 that responded that were Democrats. And in the end, in this highly skewed Republican response poll, 76% said that they approved of the president's speech compared to 23% who didn't. Now let's look at some past joint addresses to Congress. Why don't we go back and take a look at Joe Biden's last presidential address to Congress, where you'll see that 36% of the individuals surveyed were Democratic and 30% were Republican. A nice little mix. Why? Because this poll breaks down the viewership based on the actual number of Democrats and Republicans in the country. I know you can hear the facetiousness in my voice, guys, but here's the main point. Today, we had to endure article after article of news organizations saying that Americans overwhelmingly approved of the president's speech, only to dig into the poll to find out that the overwhelming number of respondents were actually Republican. And just to put it another way you can understand, if the same skewed sample reference were used to poll the last election, you would have seen that Donald J. Trump won all 50 states and won with the most overwhelming electoral college victory in the history of this country. Get the point? You've got to dig into the numbers to find the true results. If news organizations in this country want us to trust them going forward, to be the stalwarts of holding this administration's feet to the fire to tell the truth, then they've got to make sure they tell the truth themselves. They can't do stories of omission because their argument's going to be, well, we told you we only polled people that watched the speech. But as I showed you in the headline earlier, that's not what they said. They said Americans, not Americans that watched the speech. Seems like a small point, but overall it makes a huge difference in the story. The truth of the matter is the majority of Democrats and independents didn't want to watch this speech last night because they knew that what happened is exactly what's going to happen. It was going to be a cascade of half-truths and outright lies, and nobody had a stomach for it. That's why, for the first time in history, the presidential address to a joint session of Congress ended up drawing more Republicans, over half of the viewership, than any other political party in the country. That says a lot about the news media, and it says a lot about this administration. Anyway, just thought you should know the facts, and why don't you go grab a bowl of ice cream with ginger snaps in it right now? It'll make you feel better. My name's Will, guys. This is the Back 40, and have a great day.